Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. Tonight, we're delving into a story that will make you think twice before accepting any dares involving abandoned places. Brace yourselves for the chilling legend of the abandoned house by the river. At first, I thought I was just imagining things, but everything changed when we all saw it together. It was a quiet, moonlit midnight, and my friends and I were gathered around, sharing drinks and stories. The topic of the night was the old, abandoned house by the river, a place shrouded in dark rumors and eerie tales. The locals whispered about strange happenings and a supernatural being that was said to reside there. Initially, I was firmly against the idea of visiting the house. I voiced my concerns, but my friends laughed, calling me a coward and childish. They insisted that the stories were nothing more than old wives' tales, spun to scare children. A vote was taken, and nearly everyone was eager to go. Reluctantly, I agreed to join them. As we made our way towards the abandoned house, an unsettling fear gripped me. It felt as though unseen eyes were watching our every step. The house loomed ahead, its dark silhouette stark against the night sky. We stopped in front of it, hesitating as we took in its dilapidated state. My friends began to joke and tease, pointing at the windows and claiming to see figures moving inside. Their laughter echoed, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that settled in my gut. One of my friends picked up a rock and hurled it at the roof, the sound of its impact startling us all. Amidst the laughter, I thought I saw something swift and shadowy pass by one of the windows. My heart raced, but I kept silent, fearing more ridicule. We pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the scent of decay hung heavy. The interior was a mess, furniture overturned and debris scattered everywhere. My friends, unfazed, began searching for anything of interest. As we wandered through the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were not alone. My friends, however, remained skeptical and continued to mock my fears. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the third floor. We all froze, the blood draining from our faces. Gathering our courage, we decided to investigate. As we climbed the stairs, a strange sensation washed over me, as if something was crawling just above us. My friends, now visibly uneasy, tried to maintain their bravado. When we reached the third floor, our worst fears were realized. There, in the dim light, we saw it. A figure, not of this world, crawling towards us with an unnatural gait. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and its presence radiated malevolence. We stood frozen in terror, unable to move or speak. Panic set in, and we bolted down the stairs, stumbling and tripping in our haste. We didn't stop running until we were far from the house, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. We finally reached the safety of my friend's house, collapsing in a heap, too shaken to speak. In the aftermath, we could hardly believe what we had witnessed. We tried to convince ourselves it was just a collective hallucination, but the memory of that night haunted us. The next day, we recounted our experience to our parents, but they dismissed our story, attributing it to the alcohol we had consumed. Yet, we knew what we had seen was real. The days that followed were filled with an eerie silence among us. We avoided the topic, but the experience lingered in our minds. One evening, as we sat together in my friend's living room, we couldn't help but discuss what had happened. "Do you remember the whispers?" Mark, one of my friends, broke the silence. His face was pale, and his eyes were wide with fear. "What whispers?" I asked, my heart pounding. "That night, when we were on the third floor, just before we saw that thing, I heard whispers. They were faint, but it sounded like they were calling our names," Mark explained, his voice trembling. The room grew cold, and we all exchanged uneasy glances. None of us had mentioned hearing whispers before, but now, as we thought back, fragments of the memory began to surface. It was as if our minds had blocked out the terrifying details to protect us. Determined to understand what had happened, we did some research on the abandoned house. We discovered that it had once belonged to a wealthy family, the Montemayor's, who had mysteriously vanished one night. According to local law, the family had been involved in dark rituals and had summoned a malevolent spirit that now haunted the house. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, we decided to return to the house during the day, hoping to find some answers. Armed with flashlights and a camera, we made our way back to the old structure. The house seemed even more ominous in the daylight, its shadow casting a foreboding presence. Inside, the atmosphere was just as oppressive as we remembered. We made our way to the third floor, retracing our steps from that fateful night. As we reached the top of the stairs, we noticed something we hadn't seen before. Strange symbols etched into the walls. They were faded, but still visible, and they gave off an unsettling aura. "These look like some kind of runes," said Jenny, our friend who had a keen interest in the occult. "They might be related to the rituals the Montemayor's performed." As we examined the symbols, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. A sense of dread washed over us, and we heard the faint sound of whispers once more. This time, there was no mistaking it. The whispers were clearer, more insistent. Leave this place." Fear gripped us, but we pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. In one of the rooms, we found an old diary belonging to the youngest Montemayor child. The entries detailed their descent into madness, plagued by the very spirit they had summoned. The final entry was chilling. "The spirit demands a sacrifice. We cannot escape it." Suddenly, the air grew thick and the room darkened. The whispers grew louder, more aggressive. Panic set in, and we realized we had overstayed our welcome. Just as we turned to leave, the figure from that night appeared at the doorway, blocking our exit. It was more terrifying than we remembered, its eyes burning with a malevolent light. The room filled with a sense of impending doom, and we felt an invisible force pushing us back. The spirit spoke, its voice echoing through our minds. "You should not have returned." Gathering every ounce of courage, we made a desperate dash for the stairs. The spirit lunged towards us, and we felt its cold presence brush against us. We stumbled down the stairs, nearly falling in our haste. The whispers followed us, growing fainter as we reached the bottom. Bursting out of the house, we didn't stop running until we were far from the property. We collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath, our hearts pounding in our chests. The experience left us shaken to our core, and we vowed never to return to that cursed place. In the weeks that followed, we tried to move on with our lives. The experience had bonded us in a way we couldn't explain, but it also left us with a lingering fear. We were haunted by nightmares of the spirit and the whispers that called our names. We decided to share our story with the local community, hoping to warn others. To our surprise, we found that we were not the only ones who had encountered the spirit of the abandoned house. Others had similar tales of terror, of whispers in the night and ghostly apparitions. Our story spread, and the abandoned house became a place of legend, a reminder of the dark secrets that lay within. We never set foot near it again, and the memories of that night remain etched in our minds. So, if you ever hear tales of an abandoned place, heed my warning. Sometimes the stories are true, and the things that go bump in the night are very, very real.